Childhood is life's best season. It never lasts, but everyone deserves one. Memoir of a Snail comes to us from ISC Films and writer-director Adam Elliott, and centers around Grace Puddle, voiced by the incredibly talented Sarah Snook, who is sitting on a bench near a garden and decides she wants to recount her life from the beginning, and when she gets to the end, she'll stop. And the only one that's there to listen to her is her pet snail, Sylvia, who's just crawling in her shell and trying to do what snails do, just leaving a snail trail, trying to live her life gradually, slowly, eventually. And we see what happened in Grace's life, from her childhood to how she got here and everything in between, and all of this, from the joys to the sadness to the ups and downs, the all-arounds, come-on defense work, all of it is told through incredibly well done, incredibly visceral, and very, very beautifully haunting stop motion animation. So if you're not a fan of stop motion animation, you're probably not going to like this movie. That being said, if you are a fan of stop motion animation, I'm going to say right now, before I dive into too much more about this movie, you absolutely need to fucking see this in theaters. This movie is fucking incredible. It's not the most wholly original story in all honesty, but there are layers to this. There's an incredible cast. The fucking haunting imagery. There are lines in this movie that are delivered so well, with such impact. It will make you laugh. It will make you cry. It will make you feel a range of goddamn emotions. It is a fucking gut punch. It is just a goddamn incredible ride. And the fact that stop motion animation films with this level of talent and skill are still being made and put out in theaters, that is a testament to, one, the talent of Adam Elliott and everybody else that worked on this, and also the voice cast. Memoir of a Snail is fucking incredible. I only saw the trailer like 2-3 times and decided, you know what? I know nothing about it beyond like a couple of the people that are in it. Sarah Snook, who is very, very talented, as I said. Eric Bana is in this. Finally, he's in a good movie, because I've seen him in a lot of shit lately. Cody Smith McPhee, he plays Grace's brother Gilbert. More on him in a bit. And you even have Jackie Weaver. You have Nick Cave. Yes, that Nick Cave. Red right hand, do. And also Tony Armstrong. I'll talk about his character here in a little bit. But yes, this movie is fucking terrific. And this movie got to me. It got through my black heart. It chipped away at it. And it just almost put a stake through it. Because there were points where I'm like, good God, it is bad. And you could argue that this is both an incredibly sympathetic main character and also somebody where you're just like, would you just dig yourself out of this? Like this kind of stuff. Like, I mean, you see all the layers of these characters, and it just is such a beautifully haunting, sad experience. It's something that I would actually consider buying on Blu-ray. I would probably just end up buying it on streaming, but this is an incredible movie. This is just so goddamn great. And it has such funny moments in what seems like sad times. Like, you wouldn't actually find this to be like, as funny as it is. But man, when it wants to get sad, when it wants to get visceral, when it wants to get raw, it absolutely will hit you. It will hit you like a ton of bricks. It will smash you. But this stop motion animation, fucking beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And stop motion animation is a bit of a, underlying theme in this particular movie that I'll talk about in the spoilers, but just great stuff. The family dynamics definitely going to get to people, especially if you've lost people. There are parts that got to me that I'll talk about in the spoilers. The character Pinky, voiced by Jackie Weaver, is just great. Just a great character. But really the standout here is just Grace's layered character and everything, and you can just see the pain on the face of this the stop motion animated character, and just great, incredible detail. I don't know how long this movie took to make, but the effort was well worth it. It probably won't make a ton of money in theaters. I hope it makes, a good amount. I don't know how well this is going to do, but it will do well in award season and should find a life on streaming, even if it does, modest business at the box office. But I'm absolutely happy I decided to drive to catch an afternoon show before watching Heretic and Elevation. Those reviews will be up, and you can check those out as well. But whew, boy, Memoir of a Snail is very good. A lot of snail themed stuff and everything. I'm not the biggest fan of snails or slugs or any of that stuff, but you know what? It was beautiful, haunting imagery and just some great stuff and a bunch of great life lessons. Really great shit. Great voice casting. Just a lot of great stuff and just a lot of emotional depth to it. A lot. It's going to be tough to tell how high this will rank, but this is one of the best films of the year. This is really, really fucking good. It's going to be on my list. I don't know how high yet because I've watched a lot of stuff. We're up to almost 200 and like about 280 movies as of now. I'm trying to go for 300. I'm probably going to go past that. But nevertheless, Memoir of a Snail, fucking terrific. Hats off to Adam Elliott and the team. Great stuff. Check it out in theaters, 3, 2, 1, and spoilers. So, it starts off with Pinky, not Pinky and the Brain, Pinky and the Brain, because she actually has dementia, so she might be insane. I'm sorry, but I just had to keep with the song. But you have Grace there with Pinky, and Pinky, suddenly she dies. And then suddenly comes back to life, the potatoes, and then dies. And... yeah, Sarah Snook does great here, but Grace is just recounting her life and everything. Her and her brother Gilbert had a good life. They lost their mother. They lost their mother, and they show how the mother and the father met. And the father was French and was like a street performer and stuff like that, even doing a ping pong ball trick in his mouth. And I don't mean like that. Some of the visuals fucking pop. And Gilbert also was obsessed with fire, wanting to be his own street performer and stuff like that. And we find out more layers about Gilbert's character. But the father ends up getting hit in the street and ends up becoming a paraplegic. And they're struggling with money, like pension-wise and everything. They barely have enough to charge his dad's batteries to the point that people and it's set in Australia, by the way. I don't remember what the city was that they were in, but he even had to use like a car, like jumper cables for a truck battery to get himself propelled. And then they went on this roller coaster and everything, the Big Dipper, and there was some good, stuff there. And the dad had sleep apnea and stuff like that, and there was stuff where they would clap and they would wake him up. And then one day they clapped and he didn't wake up. They would also read books like Sylvia Plath books and Catcher in the Rye, and just a lot of really, really good shit. But they would end up having to go into foster care because they had no relatives who would take care of them. At least they had no relatives around. And Grace ended up going to live with a couple that was they were kind of weird nudists and strange and everything, but they were nice people. They were swingers, but they were nice. They treated her well. They thought, pumping her up with self-help stuff, giving her awards and that kind of stuff would do good, but they didn't listen to her. Also, there was something before they both got separated where Gilbert was kind of the defender of her. And a few bullies beat him up, but then he went right back and snapped the bully's finger, and that was actually a nice, crunch and everything. That was a good image. There's also something where the mom died and the dad died, and there was this stuff about this ring, like this snail type ring, kind of what it looked like, and she also wore a snail hat and stuff like that, and there's a heavy amount of snail imagery and themes here. Really overlying themes. So again, the snails are not your thing, but what I like about this is that it factors into the finish of this particular movie. So Grace has her foster parents, and they treat her well enough, but she isn't saving up her money as well as she should. She's kind of, acting out, giving into kleptomania. She's also doing... and this carries through her life, by the way. She's hoarding a lot of stuff. She's not saving as much money as she should. And also, Gilbert on the flip side, because she's living in some, safest city in Australia. He's living in Perth, which apparently at that point, I think it started in the 50s, so it was probably in the 60s or 70s. I'm trying to remember. But... basically, he lives with a very, very religious family where you have a character, Ruth, and her husband Owen, and they have their own little church thing, and they have 4 boys, 3 of which are bully types, and one that I guess on the simpler side, I guess would be the nicest way to say it, at least based on how they animated him or constructed him. But Gilbert's writing letters. It's an apple orchard thing, so he's having to slap stickers on this particular thing, and he's having to do all this, but he's acting out also. He's not happy with what he's doing. Ruth is so goddamn religious that, and I don't mind saying that because I don't care if religious people get pissed off, but she's so religious it feels like, you need to purge this stuff, well, you need to do this, and they give money to the church, which is just a family church, and then the dad uses that to go and drink. And also Ben, the brother that takes a liking to, and foster brother, by the way, I do want to emphasize, takes a liking to him. Gilbert's writing. Meanwhile, Grace is dealing with her stuff, and, she befriends Pinky, who, Pinky's a delightful character, smokes like a chimney, but very, very delightful, kind of forgetful, but, excuse me, Grace and her end up becoming friends. And Grace also did something where she would go, or Pinky actually rather would do stuff, where she would go to the old folks' home, and she would sit there with lonely people and listen to them talk and that kind of stuff. And that's a sweet thing. You really shouldn't forget your relatives when they get older. You really should try to remember people and, be there for them as they were for you when they're at the end of their life, since they've been there for your whole life. And what's nice, and there's like a thing where she's like, she's doing this hoarding stuff, the snail stuff. It's getting a little out of control, but happens upon a guy named Ben, voiced by Tony Armstrong, who is talking to, just leaf blowing and everything. And then he offered to blow my leaves. And there is some weird, stop motion animation nudity, for some claymation nudity, whatever the fuck you want to call these characters. So, whatever, it is what it is. I don't care. It very much earns its R rating with just the imagery alone. But, what's good about this is the guy's name is Ken. Things seem to be going good, and he's feeding her, and he's treating her well and everything, and she's starting to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Meanwhile, Gilbert is acting out more and more with all the stuff that's going on with his, with this religious foster family. He hates them. He can't save up enough money. And then Ben tries to give him some money to, Ben gives him some money for plane tickets and stuff like that. And that's very sweet, because you can tell Ben, appreciates and understands and, really cares for Gilbert. More on that in a bit. Pinky, meanwhile, is being there for her as she gets older. Grace is taking care of her too, but she's over the moon that Grace is going to get married, because her and Ken have a whirlwind romance. But she's getting bigger. Things are kind of, I'm not knocking or whatever, but there's a certain weird thing about how she's really growing, and he really seems very interested in treating her right and taking care of her and feeding her. I wonder if you can guess where this is going. Not to wear her skin. We're not going for a Silence of the Lambs situation, even though I thought that's where we were going. But him and her are going to get married. So she sends an invitation to Gilbert. Gilbert gets the money from Ben to go get the plane ticket. And then things basically fall apart, because his ashes end up getting sent like the next day or in a couple or whatever it is. And he can't be at the wedding because he's dead, because he died in a church fire. And then we find out why a little bit later. So naturally, Grace is despondent. She's upset. She hadn't been able to see her brother, and she hadn't been able to do that. And she had dreams of going to film school and be a stop-motion animator, filmmaker like her dad was. He wasn't just a street performer. He was that also. She has dreams of doing this, but at least she has Ken. And then she discovers a scrapbook, because there's these guinea pigs, these giant, weird guinea pigs that look like Killer Shrew claymations. If you get it, you get it. And one is chewing a scrapbook that's up on the goddamn thing, and she finds a scrapbook, and it's all these women that he made bigger and bigger because it's his fetish. It's a weird thing. I thought maybe he was killing them, but they never went that far. But yeah, she got pissed off and everything and basically kicked him out of the goddamn house. She said, yeah, I've been hoarding this stuff, but I lost my brother, and you've just been using me to do this to feed a fetish. You didn't actually love me. And that made her even lower. Then Pinky basically tells her, snails retreat in their shell when they need to repair. And she gave her something that said it wasn't going to get to me. Life isn't about looking backwards. It's about living forwards. And that's true. You can look backwards. You can wonder how things could have been, but just don't live in the past. You got to appreciate what's coming up. You can appreciate the past. But then, so she's all despondent about Gilbert, but then, Pinky has this little tin thing that she has. She kept a lot of stuff in. She never put her money in a bank. And then eventually she dies. We go back to the beginning. And Grace has lost everything. Meanwhile, she's telling all this to Sylvia, by the way. And Sylvia has barely moved because she's a snail. And there was actually a funny thing where Gilbert and Grace actually had a tie there because Sylvia was a snail that they had. And her and him reproduced, and they came all over the goddamn jar, which was kind of funny. It was funny to me, at least. But it's a circle of life. And then she wonders, the potatoes, what the hell does she mean? And then, you know, Sylvia's crawling up on the sign. And then she suddenly starts digging and finds a tin and finds a letter because Pinky never told her about her life, but that she was an orphan and that she had a rough time and everything. But the life isn't about looking backwards, it's about looking forwards. And it's beautifully told, by the way. And then she's, you know, she has money, but now she's like, I don't really know what I can do because I don't have anybody. But she decides she's going to enroll in film school. And she enrolls in film school. And then, you know, not too many people came, but it was about her life. Her and Ken and Pinky and that kind of stuff. And not a lot, there were like 4 people there. Nobody really had any questions except one person. One person who was shrouded in the background. Shrouded in the background. And showed the ring. It was Gilbert. How the hell did he survive? It's a church fire. They explained basically that even though what they showed before he died in the church fire, he actually escaped through the window. And the reason that this whole thing happened, the reason all this happened, and I'm going to tie it back to the end here, is Ruth saw her son Ben and Gilbert together. Shocked the gay away. That's what they did. That's actually probably the most horrifying scene of the whole thing. But that led to him basically burning the church down. He used, you know, his, you know, fire techniques and stuff like that, but then they trapped him in the church, or she did. And then he escaped through there and basically made it across the desert. Like he said, he'd cross across the desert to see her, and he did. And now they're living together. They're happy. Sylvia died because the lifespan of a snail eventually goes. And that's it. That's it. They're happy together, and it's a beautifully told story. It's really good. It's really, really fucking good. It's really good shit. I really like this. A+. So yeah, and by the way, the whole thing with Eric Bana's character, because she had been doing the kleptomania thing. Before I get, you know, they'll finish with this. He was at his lowest. He was a homeless guy, and then he became a magistrate. And because she helped him, he decided to just throw her charges out. That's why she never faced any consequences for that, because she helped him, and he saw that deep down she was a good person. Really good shit. Again, A+. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ricklin. I'll see you soon.